Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries on a Saturday. We're here every Saturday, 2 till 4 p.m. My name is Elder Kirk. I want to read this right before we jump into business. The topic of today, risking it all for God. Risking it all for the God of Israel. Oh, come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. For the Lord is great. The Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation, as in the day of the temptation of the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath, that they should not enter into my rest, Selah and Selah. Amen. Welcome. Gather everybody that you know, bring them into the room. Like, share, comment. There's a link there if you feel that this is the trek, this is where you need to be, click it and get on your way to the glorious walk towards the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So, risking it all for the God of Israel. We're going to talk about this for about 2 hours. I'm going to come up in this first hour and kind of set the stage the best way that I can for the showstopper, the show closer, your favorite, everybody's favorite, Priest Doreen. So, risking it all for God, a wonderful, that's a title and a half. And so many different ways we can go. It was a long time ago, where I myself was faced with the choice, the decision. Kirk, are you going to do what everybody else does? The way of the world? Or Kirk, hey, are you going to risk it all for this God you're learning about? Let me rephrase the risking. Kirk, are you going to ante up and put all the chips on the table? On this hand, are you going to put all the chips on the table? Are you going to keep a few just in case you lose his hand? Listen to that. Are you going to tuck a few chips, a couple of red-colored chips? I don't know what color they are. I'm just guessing. Red or green. One of you guys could tell me which one is the expensive one. All right? The $1,000 chip. Are you going to keep a $1,000 chip in the pocket? Put some on the table, or are you going to put it all on the table and risk it? Put it all on the table, ante up. And trust in this God that you're learning about. Well, I want to read a piece of 1 Kings in chapter 8. 1 Kings in chapter 8, I'm going to go to verse 38, and it says, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man or by all thy people Israel, which shall know every man the plague of his own heart, and spread forth his hands towards this house, then hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place. This is Solomon's prayer. Altars lit. It's a dedication in the presence of the Spirit, the actions of the people's hand, the movement of the cloud, the smelling of the smoke, the essence of the Spirit in the presence. Then he says, then hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive and do and give to every man according to his ways, whose heart thou knowest, for thou Even thou only knowest the hearts of all the children of men. Kirk, are you going to put all the chips on the table? And bet that salvation is at the end of the road with this new God that you're learning? Kirk, are you going to put all the chips on the table? All of them. And hear the words Elder Shadrach is saying. The priests are saying. The Israelite nation is saying. Are you going to put it on the table? All of it. Kirk, are you going to put the chips on the table and even raise your own children? Are you putting all the chips on the table? Or are you tucking some away just in case it doesn't work? Well, we just read, only God knows the hearts of man. So whatever discussion I would have internally to say, yeah, I'm putting all the chips on the table, or look left and look right and tuck a couple chips away, just in case this thing don't work. Well, God knows what it is that I'm saying in my heart. I want to take a moment, and I'm going to kind of veer right. I'm not going to veer left. I'm going to veer right and talk to some of my people who are joining this holy flock next week, I think it is, or something like that, by way of baptism, by way of washing, by way of introduction to the family. You know, there's no fooling the Spirit. There is no fooling the Spirit. This trek that we walk, and you're about to walk along as well, requires a stable and a sound heart, requires a singleness of mind, and requires deep-rootedness in the soil which is in the garden where God has planted his vineyard. It requires yea or nay. If you could hear me today, say it with me. Yea or nay. I can't hear you, but I trust that you're saying it. Doesn't require sorta, kinda, almost, maybe. It requires yea or nay. I believe or I don't believe. Now, this may be brand new and you're still acquiring information and you're still sitting at the side and taking a look and gathering information to get there before you decide if you're going to put your chips, all of them, on the table. That's a good thing. Gather the information, gather it, learn, prove, try. Do all of the above. But if you've come to that moment to where you say, I want to be in this family, I want to walk towards paradise, I want to do the things that are needed. Well, the question to you is, are you going to put all the chips on the table? Are you going to double down? I don't gamble, but I know some of these terms. Are we going to double down on the ace and double down on the face card? Are we going to double down? Are we going to put all the chips, or are we going to tuck some or a few away? Can you join me as we jump over to the book of Acts? Let's take a look at Acts. And we're going to go to Acts 5. So what does Acts 5 say? It says, from 1, but a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira his wife sold a possession. These are all goodly stories, and these are all things that sometimes, yes, it has its own context. It does have its own context. But sometimes we could extrapolate some things out of these to put into our context as to where we are going today. So we're going to look at 5, verse 1. And a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira his wife, sold a possession and kept back part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. So the assembly was moving, it's popping, it's shaking. People are adding on to the church day by day, one by one. And great things are happening. The manifestation of the Spirit is there. Nobody wanted or lacked anything, to the point, as interesting, Priest Andel spoke about this last night a bit, to the point that because of this truth, because of the movement, and because of all the blessings, and because no one lacked anything, everybody was good with selling their possessions. So they had more than enough. Sell the possessions and give it. Put it at the feet of the apostles so that this movement would grow and continue on. It's not tithes. This is not tithes. But this free will, sell it. We could sell it and let's just go. This thing I'm hearing is so good. This is so good. Let's go. I'm going to sell everything in my ox, my donkeys, my house, my corner store. I'm going to sell the whole vineyard is gone. I'm going to sell the whole vineyard. All my carts, gone. Here's the cash. Take it. We love the Lord. But Ananias and Sapphira kept back part of the price. His wife also privy, knowing and seeing what was happening. She looks, ooh. She looked at all the money. She goes, ooh. And she saw as some was tucked away. She looked this way and looked back. And brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why hath Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back part of the price of the land that you sold? You know, we read the story, we're like, wow, if I was him, I'm glad I'm not, and I hope I never am. I hope I'm never Ananias. How do you know what I did way over there? How do you know how much I sold this for? I just came and dumped some money down at the feet here, you know, do what we got to do. How do you know how much I sold it for? How do you know that I kept back some shekels? How do you know this? Well, the same Spirit, the hand of the Spirit, which caused all this bountiful blessings to fall upon the movement, the assembly, the church, the ecclesia, the kirk. It's that Spirit that knows. And you come and you drop it down, and it's less some. Why has Satan filled your heart? Why haven't you put all the chips on the table? Huh? Wait, what's up? What are you looking for? What are you thinking? What do you need? Why are you keeping some of the chips? Do you believe? If you do, then put all the chips on the table. For, whiles it remained, was it not thine own? And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thy heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. You haven't lied unto men, but unto God. Same way we say this. You haven't vowed unto men, but you vow unto God. You haven't promised unto men, but you promise unto God. So the promise that you can break, it's not to man. It's the promise that you broke or can break. It's to God. Why? As we read in 1 Kings, because God knows the hearts of man. No trickery. Can't slide around. You can't put half the chips on the table. You don't want to risk it all for God. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down gave up the ghost, and great fear came on all them that heard these things. Powerful, huh? Powerful. We're in the book of Acts. He made the transaction, he sold it, came, put some coins down, tucked some away in his safe in the back. We know the Spirit saw, hey, we know what the deal is. Why have you let Satan into your heart? Dead, boom, fall down right there and then. And the young men arose, wound him up, and carried him out and buried him. And it was about the space of 3 hours later, when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in, and Peter answered unto her, Tell me whether you sold the land for so much. Hey, how much did you sell the land for again? And he said, Yea, for so much. And Peter said unto her, How is it that you've agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? For the Lord knoweth the hearts of all men. The Lord knoweth the hearts of all men. So how would you be able to waggle around it and tempt the Spirit? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband, she's finding out now that her husband is dead and buried, are at the door, and shall carry thee out the same way. Then fell she, boom, down straightway at his feet, and yielded up the ghost. And the young man came in and found her dead, and carrying her forth, buried her by her husband. And great fear came upon all the church and upon as many as heard these things. I think that's a great example. You know, most of the time, I'll speak on my behalf. Most of the time when I read these things and these things creep into my heart, or however it works, and I think of discussions and topics, putting it on all the chips on the table and risking it all for God, most of these times these are discussions that I'm having with me. Most of the times I've had this discussion with Kirk. And then, if I can, I'll come out and broaden the discussion, and we'll have it with everybody else. But at first, the conversation happens with me. Why? Because I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not in a different boat. I'm on the same ride. I'm on the same journey, the same trip. I go through the same things that everybody else goes through. I have my downs and I have my ups. I have my thoughts of the heart. I have to talk myself off the ledge sometimes. Sometimes I have to talk somebody else off the ledge. Whatever it is. Just like you, I am the same. So I read these scriptures and I have these conversations and say, wow. I don't want to say ever, man, this person is I won't say it, this person is not a good person because of what they did. I always want to hopefully be able to take that example and not relive it myself. Because as people, we are all subject to the same thing, and we have to make our own decisions and our choices when they arise. And I'll tell you what's interesting. Remembering that I made that decision to put all the chips on the table and risk it all for God helps me. In the moment of anger, and I want to do something, I got to remember about the chips on the table. When the feeling of buffoonery lurks around and would like to play with me and like to play with you, I have to remember I have all my chips on the table. I have all the chips on the table. I have no reserve, nothing. There's nothing. I put all the chips on the table. I said with my mouth, I will serve you all the days of my life. Every chip on the table, it's there. So whatever comes, as tough as it may be, it comes left and it comes right, it comes down, it comes up. It all comes. Corners you, corners me, corners us, bothers us, irritates us, presents itself in different ways to make us do things that we ought not to. Some way, somehow, I got to pause and say, hold up, Kirk, hold up. The bank account is empty because I cleared it and I put every single chip. Years ago, I put it all on the table. So, regardless of whatever, as tough as it may be, as easy as it may be, as challenging, right, wrong, indifferent, all of my chips have been put on the table. Made a decision to risk it all for God years and years ago. As you make this decision about risking it all for God, and as you have the chips in front of you right now, and as you're counting them and you see them, and you're making that decision, should I place them here? Should I place them here? Should I put on half? If you put half, it ain't nothing. If you put half, keep them, take them back. If you put a quarter, it doesn't mean anything. You got to put all the chips on the table. And when you put all the chips on the table, watch, wait, walk. Let's go to, I'm in Acts. Let's go to James. We'll go to James 1. All right, so we start from verse 1. James 1, verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Makes you smile, don't it, Priest Tyrone? I'll read it again. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Peace. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect, entire, wanting nothing. You know, one of the lessons. Do you mind if I bring you into a conversation I have with me? I could bring you in. You know, going through diverse temptations and situations, personally, over time, one thing that I could attest to and say must be exhibited. Must be. You cannot be hasty. Be hasty in prayer. Yes, you can. Be hasty in prayer. Be hasty in meditation. Be hasty in reading to find an example as how do I get out of this? What should I do? Be hasty to seek advice, wise counsel. But patience is the key. Patience, patience, patience. Verse 4, verse 3, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Patience is when you take all your chips and you put it on the table, you know what you need? Patience. Are you thinking there's a return? This ain't a craps table. the wheel doesn't spin and everybody gets excited and stops and the ball hops and then you take your coin. Patience. Put all the chips on the table. Risk it all for God. It could be decades and decades and decades before you see that return. Patience. So, you've prayed, you're walking, something is not looking the way it should be. Patience. Patience. God works. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Be hasty to pray. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed. I remember years back, someone had joined us, I'll say, and the expectation, they expected to become some sort of music mogul, I think it was. They just thought that if, I'm going to worship this God and I'm going to do what you guys say and I'm going to become a music mogul. You who don't know who this person is, do you think they became a music mogul? But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driving with the wind and tossed. For let not the man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. Faith, patience, all the chips on the table. Fully decided. You're not left, you're not right. Both feet, 10 toes down. Full of belief. And this is what it is. What comes, what may. It is what it is. You have that feeling, you pray, as he says, you will receive liberally. You have all that within you and you pray, you will receive that liberally. But undecided, half-stepped, to the left or to the right, some of the chips on the table. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. And 8 is the clincher. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot be here and there at the same time. The water is either hot, cold. So, putting it all on the table for God. This is a conversation that I can have with myself over and over and over. And I implore you to do the same. Let's jump over to Matthew. Now, everything in this Bible is an oldie but goodie. Everything in this Bible is an oldie but goodie. Matthew 13, the parable of the sower. Verse 1, the same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside. A great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat. And the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went forth to sow. Just imagine you hearing this for the first time. You're right there and he's talking and you're not really, you hear what he's saying, but it doesn't click. And then at the point when it clicks, you're like, whoa, wow, whoa. You're talking about me. This scripture is talking about me and you. Some of the truest words ever said by any man. These are true words. Verse 4, and when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came up and devoured them. Take the seeds, and he just threw them, and they all landed where they land. Of course, the sower wants to come back and reap from the seeds, but they all land where they land, and you come back to pick, to pluck, to reap whatever is fruitful. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. And verse 5 says, some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. Walk with me here, please. Oldie but goodie. But let's relive it. Let's relive it here. Let's apply this. Let's bring this into 2022, today where we're at. Let's bring it here home. Let's put it on like a hat and let's wear it. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground and brought forth fruit. Some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Any person that puts a chip on the table, puts all the chips on the table, risk it all for God. Which one of these do you want to be? Oh, the explanation hasn't happened yet. But which one of these do you want to be? The breakdown to the parable he has not stated yet. But which one do you want to be? Verse 10, and the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables? And he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. Words. Bars. And the thing about that is it's so plain that everybody could say that. Because whatever foolishness that you believe or you accept, you could say, I know what I know because I believe and I have understanding. Everybody could say that. But those who's following here and understand, we know what's happening, and we know what he's talking about. For whoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. And whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I unto them in parables, because they are seeing, see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Esaias, which saith, by hearing you shall hear and shall not understand. So let me jump down to where he jumps into the explanation. 18, hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. All my people, all our family members who are about to put all the chips on the table, to make that decision to put chips on the table, to join into this family, to walk the walk of our forefathers. All those chips. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed over there by the wayside. Somebody comes and says something to you because you don't completely understand. Somebody comes and whispers something to you and say, oh, that's garbage. Oh, the laws of Moses. Who are you following that? And these black people, skin, it's a skin thing. And all the different things. And because you're weakened, you're considered to be by the wayside. So what happens? Just kind of die and blow away. But he that received the seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. Take a moment and soak that and understand what that is saying. This seed in the stony places receives the truth and anons with joy, is excited and jumps around and pounds and loves it, soaks it. But what does it say? Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a little while. The excitement dies off after a little while. The feeling that was once there dies off after a little while. The tears and being wet with the water and the hugs and the embraces and the momentum of seeing everybody else put chips on the table and you put chips on the table. Hooray, hurrah! But it's not deep-rooted enough where just a little while, time passes. And what happens? For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he/she is offended. Oh, what? So when you weren't offended, everything was A-okay. When you put the chips on the table, and all of them, everything was A-okay. When you asked the question from Elder Freddie, hey, this scripture, what does it mean? And he breaks it down, and you smile for joy. Everything is okay. When you're having your own feast, everything's okay. When the blessings are coming down and they're raining down, everything is okay. And for joy. When your prayers are being answered, everything is okay. Victory after victory after victory after victory, everything is okay. But no. When the moment comes, persecution, tribulation, offense, the stony ground swallows you up. The leaves turn brown. The plant limps, cradles itself into the ground, dies. Slightest wind just blows the plant fibers away, and we don't see you ever again. 22, he also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word. And the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. But he that receives seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, some 30, etc., etc., etc. We're going to go to the book of Judges, but I want to talk to you today. Like I said, I'm going to veer right a bit and talk to some of my people that are about to take that plunge, that are about to be asked if you really are going to put all the chips on the table, if you are going to risk it all for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You cannot come 50%. You can't come half-stepped. You got to be fully involved, fully in. The belief has got to be fully there. You can't sell and put a piece in. Furthermore, you can't trick the Spirit. You can't fool the Spirit. You can't fool God. For he knows the hearts of all men. Like, share, comment. Comment. I would love to go back and read some of these comments and see what you say, how you feel. I would love to do so if you so choose. Also remember, contact us. We would love to hear from you. We would love to dialogue with you. We're here to teach all nations. Particularly, we want our people to come on back. Leave all the other ways which lead us to death, starvation, destitute, and come to the way of truth. Click on the link to get us started. Answer a few questions. We'll get back to you. And we go from there. We don't want your chips. We want you to put all your chips in heaven. We want your heart to be in heaven. Let's go to Judges, and we'll close out. This is a little bit of a story, but it kind of puts everything together. Putting the chips on the table. Belief. Proving. Proof. Let's go to Judges 6. And I'll read as much as I can, as we have about 15 minutes or so before Priest Doreen, the showstopper, comes on. All right. So Judges 6 from the top, and it goes a little something like this. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. You know, when somebody, they say, how come you don't talk about the good news? Albeit I understand what it is that they're trying to say. I understand it. How come you don't talk about the good news? The gospel, the good news, the Lord. And you know, the more they ask that question, the more it shows you that you got nothing to do with this book. You really don't have anything to do with this book. You don't. Our story, which includes what you're calling the good news. The good news comes after there was some bad news. The good news comes after there was some bad news. It wasn't all good news. So, all the good news you're talking about, what we read over here, what about, you didn't find any good news over here? And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. That's our story. That's our story. We need to know this. We need to go here. We got to go there. The good news is not going to make any sense, or it's not going to be relevant to us unless we understand what it is that we have to change to receive the good news. Why did we get the bad news? Because, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. That's it. Another day. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. And because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains, and caves, and strongholds. And so it was, when Israel had sown, the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites, and the children of the east, even they came up against them. So we sow, they come and they grab, right? Deuteronomy 28 tells you about that. You will sow, another man will eat. And they encamped against them, and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass, nothing. That ain't good news. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude, for both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass, that's the important part. That's the important part that we gotta look at these things of our story. And we did evil in the sight of the Lord. But what happens? Because he is our Lord and we belong to him, there came a moment when, and it came to pass when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, because they came, they were like grasshoppers, because they took everything that we sown, because they took all of our animals, anything, they left us with nothing, just enough to live, skins and bones, just enough to live so that we would not die. So we cried, we cried, we cried. We cried. Many a times we cried. We cried, we cried. This is the book of Judges. That the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. You got to love our God, and you got to appreciate his consistency. You got to love his mercy and understand how it works, right? And that's the approach that we take in this book. It is that way because it's our story from one to the end. It's our story, so we got to appreciate it. We got whipped and beaten because we disobeyed him. We cried, his anger abated, and then he sent someone to say, hey, there's a way out of this. There is a way out of this. You want to eat, you want your animals, you want the blessings, you want your own place, you want the Midianites out of there? There is a way out of this. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all that oppressed you, and drave them out from you, and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But ye have not obeyed my voice. Point! Fear not their stupid gods. Fear not those gods of stone and metals and all that. Don't worry about them. I am the one that did all of this, as he said. And there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Right? He had to secretly press wheat. He had to hide it in the winepress, way in the back, quietly, so he can have a little meal, a little eat, a little bread, a little something to make something, because we're under siege. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. And this is so interesting. So mighty man of valor. He looks at him and says, mighty man of valor. I don't know if the angel is saying, you are truly a mighty man of valor, or what's about to come, you're going to be made a mighty man of valor. Another topic. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all of this befallen us? So, Amazing. You know, do you see how this just, so you're putting the chips on the table. Next week sometime. Some of you. Well, why has this befallen us? Why are we in the situation that we are in today? Why are we scattered, as James said, scattered abroad the world? Peace. Why the oppression? Why the? We don't need to go over it. We know. Why the state? Why is it? Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? Where be all his miracles, which our fathers told us of, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And that's what we face today. That's why everybody isn't coming with their chips and putting them all on the table. If you are the Israelites, then what happened? Why is this? Why is that? Whoa, wait, so you're telling me that Moses, listen to this, he's saying that this guy is from, are you guys hearing all of that? It's the same thing. What is he saying here? What is Gideon saying? Okay, I need some proof. Okay, you need to show me a little before I can make a maneuver. You want me to put all my chips on the table, Lord? Angel? Well then, answer me this. If he be who he say he is, and he did what he say he did, then why are we where we're at? Huh? Sound like some people you probably know. And the Lord looked upon him and said, go. In this day thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? And he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? There's a lot of questions here. Just put your chips on the table. Just put your chips on the table. And he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor, and Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. Different context, but who did Jesus sit with? Different context, but who did Jesus sit with? And the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. And he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. This is a lot of proof is needed here. This is a lot. This is a lot. All right, the angel is there. Okay, maybe you're not an angel. Maybe you're not an angel. So prove it. So prove it. So prove it. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come up unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. Gideon went in and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of ephah of flour, the flesh he put in a basket, and put in the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. And the angel of God said unto him, take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay upon this rock, and pour out the broth. He did it. Then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of his staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and there rose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. That should conclude all of the proof required, no? I think that at that point, you say, okay, when do we go and take care of the Midianites at that point? Or in other words, I'm ready now to risk it all because of what God just said. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, Peace be unto thee, fear not, thou shalt not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord and called it Jehovah Shalom unto this day, and it is yet Ophrah of the Israelites. And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock, 7 years old, and throw it down at the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of the rock, in the ordered place, and take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove, which thou shalt cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him, and so it was, because he feared his father's household. And the men of the city, that he could not do it by the day, that he did it by night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down, and was by it. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said unto one another, who had done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, had done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die. I have to speed read a little bit. Go back and read this, though. Because he had cast down the altar of Baal, and because he had cut down the grove that was by it. Our blessed grove and statue trophy of Baal, he cut it down. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will you plead for Baal, you idiots? Will you save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death while it is yet morning. And if he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one has cast down his altar. Speed reading, but you could laugh. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he had thrown down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher and unto Zebulun and unto Naphtali. And they came up with him. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of... So, Gideon is not prepared to put all the chips on the table, folks. He's still not prepared to put all the chips on the table. The angel touched his offering, fire devoured it. He even built an altar. But he still had some reservation. And you know what? Maybe, right? They're being dominated by the Midianites. Dominated. It's a bad situation. And he just can't see it. How he can raise up and do anything. Perhaps he just can't see it. Okay? I think that after the flesh torched up, I think I probably would have been good there. And it was so, for he rose up early in the morning. Sorry, let me read it. And behold, I will put a fleece of wool on the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and if it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by my hand. Read 6, the rest of 6. Read the rest of 7, and you would see it. Much was required for Gideon to put all his chips on the table. He required loads and loads of proof, and he got it. All these miracles, please, make the fleece wet, make everything dry. Make everything wet, make the fleece dry. And then at the end of it, right before everything goes down, he's told, okay, by the sword, and the man had the dream and everything ready to go. And then the angel said, but yet, if you still have a little bit of go and grab, I can't remember his name, your servant, I think his name was Purah. go and grab your servant poor if you still have a little hesitation. And then the scripture says the next thing, and Gideon went and he grabbed Purah. Right? And you read the story, devoured. They were all devoured. They did what he had to do as per the Lord's saying. So, risking it all for God, put all the chips on the table. It's a decision that you have to make. No one can make it for you. Nobody can make it for you. But I can tell you this. There is no other table. There is no other way. Anything that you invest your chips in is folly and foolishness. And you will receive no return. There's death, destitute, annihilation waiting for you. That I can assure you. But we put the chips on the table for our God. We risk it all for our God. 10 years, 5 years, 50, 100 years, 120 years by reason of strength. The return awaits. It is worthy and worth it to risk it all for the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Thank you for your time today. And coming up next is Priest Doreen. Peace.
Hello. I hope you are enjoying our program so far. We are so thrilled you have decided to join us for today's event. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit that subscription button, and don't forget to click the notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all of our upcoming videos. Also, please like, comment, and share our videos. We truly appreciate it. We are so passionate about sharing our Israelite culture, and we welcome your generosity in helping us to reach more people. So please feel free to leave us donations. If you are thinking about joining us and would like to learn more, fill out the form in the description below, and one of our team members from the Welcome Committee will be in contact with you shortly. I thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you soon. And with that, I bid you peace, love, truth, prosperity, and power.
I will praise thee with my whole heart. Before the gods will I sing praise unto thee. I will worship toward thy holy temple and praise thy name for thy loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. In the day when I cried, thou answerest me and strengthenest me with the strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord, for great is the glory of the Lord. Though the Lord be high, yet has he respect unto the lowly. But the proud he knoweth afar off. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thy hand against the wrath of my enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endureth forever. Forsake not the works of thy own hands. Selah and Selah. Amen. Woo. Good afternoon, brethren and guests. We're here once again Saturday afternoon to talk about risking it all for God. That title, or the real title, should be Risking It All for the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Sometimes the caption is too long to fit, I think, on the YouTube screen. But I just want to thank Priest Kurt for a wonderful lesson. My goodness, I could have sat and listened to Gideon all day. And what I like and appreciate about Gideon and the way that Priest Kurt broke it down is that, you know, it's relatable. It's so relatable. It's us, right? We're not far removed from the scriptures. The world has taught us to disconnect from it, but we're not far removed. You know, like, you put up your hand. I mean, in the chat, who would have asked for proof? Give me proof. Well, why are we like this? Well, I know you say who you say you are. Well, if you're really the angel of God, then why is this happening? Why are there poor people? Why are people dying? That sound like my people, man. I know you spoke to some people like that. And I just love that we could connect with our forefathers, such as Gideon, that we can go back to and be like, yep, there it is, right there. And this is like hundreds and thousands of years ago. And still the same people of today. My goodness. So yes, definitely go back and read chapters 6 and 7. There's so much to glean from that. And just the relatability and how you can connect, right, to Gideon. And just be like, yeah, I am flesh just like him. I do have these thoughts and these. And basically, that's what this topic is all about today. When you take that risk for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And yes, baptism is coming up next week. Woo. Can't believe it's already coming. Gosh, I remember my own baptism. Shaky feet, shaky boots. It's a big deal. Baptism is a big deal. It's very serious business. Like Priest Kurt said, you're putting all your chips on the table. This is chips on the table for the rest of your life. That day of baptism is that first step to the rest of your life. That first day where you wash away the yesteryear, the sin, the days of old, and go into something brand new. It's serious business. For at that point, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will count all the things that you do, good or bad. So serious business. And I feel like even last night, right? The kingdom of heaven is like that topic last night. And shout out to the MOV men, the men of valor. That was awesome. I enjoyed last night. I had an opportunity to tune in. That was wonderful. Seeing new faces, the new brethren, jump on the live and really have this wonderful discourse with Elder Andel. And just, hearing your thoughts and perspectives of what it really means to take this step and this journey and to even understand and break down what the kingdom of heaven is like. As we are approaching baptism, I feel like there is this one accord in the sense of our message and our lessons that, we do recognize how important that step is. And hence why a lot of these lessons today, risking it all for God, is kind of like geared towards your step into baptism and all the things that you must do. My goodness, there's so much. There's so many different ways that we can tackle this topic. And I think for me, one of the things I wanted to touch on from last night was, in the story of Ruth. Thank you guys for touching on a female, in the Bible, and an Israelite woman, Naomi. Thank you for touching on that story. And I want to kind of go in there and also dive into it a little bit because of when one person risks, others benefit. When one person chooses to take a risk, others benefit. And so much so that even the entire nation can benefit. Can you imagine that? Even the entire nation can benefit. Let's go, if I can go there really quickly, to Ruth, chapter 4. And I'm not going to read all of it because it was done last night. Chapter 4 in Ruth. And we'll start at verse 13. So if you remember from last night, if you haven't seen it, please go back and watch. But Naomi, Israelite woman, she was living in Moab, and she had sons. Her sons passed away. One of the sons was married to Ruth. Ruth, who is from that land, was like, I'm not going to go back and go to my own kinsmen. Because Naomi was ready to leave. Like, I have nothing here. My sons died. Everybody's gone. I'm going to go back to my own people, my own land. And Ruth is like, well, I'm coming with you. You're not leaving me here. And Ruth decided to give up everything. Her way of life. Her way of life. Her culture. You know how hard it is to break away from something your parents have taught you since you were yay high? Not easy. You probably still do things and you don't even know why you do it that way. It's only because your parents taught you that way. And here was Ruth, willing to walk away from her culture, her people, her gods, or God, little g's, to seek Naomi and to go after her and serve Naomi's God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. How tremendous is that? Like, my goodness, like, Ruth was not an Israelite. Newsflash. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. Ruth was not an Israelite. Right? She was a Moabite. And she loved Naomi so much. She loved her husband so much. She chose to follow Naomi. Give up everything she knew and follow Naomi. Her way of life since she was yay high, her culture, and to serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So they come into the land of Israel, right? And she ends up meeting Boaz. Love that name, Boaz. Wealthy man, Israelite. You know, she ends up meeting Boaz. And we'll read verse 13. I'm not going to paraphrase everything. We'll read verse 13. So, Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. Oh, gosh. You mean an Israelite man married this Moabite woman that was not an Israelite? Stop the presses. Newsflash, what's happening here? What is happening here? Boaz, the Israelite man, is marrying Ruth. You know, there's wisdom to these scriptures because some will argue and say, well, back in Deuteronomy 7, the God of Israel gave commandments and said, when you go into the land, do not allow your sons to marry their daughters and do not allow your daughters to marry their sons. But it doesn't stop there. The God of Israel says, when you go into the land of Canaan, I don't want you to mingle and marry them because I fear, if you follow and read verse 4 of Deuteronomy chapter 7, because if you do, I fear that they will turn you away from serving me. That's the kicker. That's the real kicker. Don't mingle and marry them because I fear that they will turn you away from serving me, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And let's face it, Priest Kurt just said it. Our demise is that we're always doing wrong in the sight of the Lord, always not serving him. We're weak. So here is Ruth that came into the land. Boaz took Ruth to wife. Who do you think followed who? Ruth already followed Naomi. And now she's marrying this Israelite man, Boaz, once more. And when he went in unto her, guess what happened? The Lord gave her Ruth. The Lord gave her Ruth. You mean the Lord gave Ruth, this Moabite woman, conception? My goodness. There's wisdom in the scriptures. I know it's written in chapter 7, but there's wisdom here. Not always the letter of the law, but the wisdom of the law is what is taught to us by our elder Shadrach. Oh my goodness, I'm so thankful for you, elder Shadrach. Because I honestly believe that I swear it, I would be just out there, man, in space. A deer in headlights. Thank you for your teachings because this is not of our own, not of my own. You know, I appreciate and thank you for your teachings, you know, always looking for the wisdom, the realness of the scriptures, the truth of it all. So the Lord gave Ruth conception and she bare a son. And I love the story of Ruth because there's so much culture in it. And verse 14 says, and the women said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which has not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. Wow. You know, when we get together, man, we make these, you know, we can make really, we're good at really just giving praise. And they're also really good at giving curses. Let his blood be in our children's children. Like, why? Keep that for yourself. Blessed be the Lord, which has not left thee this day without a kinsman. With gratitude, you are not left childless. Your name shall live on, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thy old age. For thy daughter-in-law, Ruth, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than what? Ruth, this Moabite woman, the daughter-in-law, is better to thee than what? 7 sons has borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom and became nurse unto it. She became the caretaker. And the women, her neighbors, Israelites, the culture. So the women, Israelite women gathered. They came together. They gave all this praise. This is the Israelite culture. A child is born. They came together with Naomi and they said, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, who is the father of David. Just close the Bible, let's go home. Close the Bible, let's go home. Ruth chose to risk it all. She left everything she knew about her own life and culture to follow after. And let's talk about this for a little bit, like real context here. Naomi is not a young buck, right? This Ruth chose to follow after an elderly woman. I don't know about today, the generation now. How often do you see them following after elderly people? Someone said never. Priest Arnold said never. like real life story. You know, today our youth don't do that. They don't seek after the wisdom of the elderly. As a matter of fact, they probably shun it. You know nothing. That was in your time. Ruth chose to follow after this, her mother-in-law, elderly woman, back to her land, gave up everything she knew. She didn't know where she was going. She'd never been there before. At least the scriptures don't give, can't see into that, give perspective or insight into that. But she went somewhere. She followed after this woman. She didn't know what her life would become, but she said, I will give up everything here and I will serve your God. Your God will be like unto you, as to me, as my God as well. And she went on, and because of her, in the lineage of David, and we know the seed is after the man, but here is this great-grandmother, two great-great-grandmother, Ruth, a Moabite, to David. My gosh, David, one of the greatest kings of Israel, if not the, is. Wow. Because she chose to take that risk, that walk. My gosh. I just enjoy this story about Ruth and Naomi because there's so much in it and we can connect to it and it's truth because this still happens today. This happens today. And this happened hundreds and thousands of years ago. You see, what do you see? The Israelite blood mingled. So now, when you look at someone and you see a 12-tribe chart, I mean, you don't want to laugh, but sometimes you have to. The ignorance is real, man. The ignorance is real. Our blood has been mingled from time. Who are you to know who is from what tribe and how? You don't know how the blood is mingled. So I appreciate this. I appreciate the Kingdom of Heaven is Like message last night. Thank you guys so much for touching on this because there's just so much meat in this story and culture that I just really appreciate the story of Ruth. And she didn't know, when you take risk, you're at a crossroad. Sometimes in your life, right? We've all been there, probably there right now. Probably about to go through it tomorrow. Who knows? A year from now, 2 months from now. You're faced with, there's a moment in your life where you're at a crossroad and you're faced with decisions. You can make choice A and you can make choice B. And you have to take that risk because you don't know the consequences of each choice. And that's what's so wonderful about Ruth because she chose to take this choice to follow after Naomi. And because of her taking this risk and making this choice to follow after her, even though Naomi was trying to shush her away, no, don't, go back to your people. Like, don't follow me. Why do you want to come? I don't have any more sons. I don't have anyone else you can marry. She's like, no, I'm going to follow you. She was prudent, right? And because of this, an entire nation, the entire nation of Israel, got to reap the reward of that son of King David. Well, you can't write this, man. It's real life stuff. Can't write this. She didn't know, but it happened, and it happened for the benefit of the nation of Israel. Oh, man, beautiful. And we all do this. We all do this. We all take risks. You know, I remember as a little girl, I don't know if I've told this story before. I tell a lot of stories. But, you know, when I was a little girl, and that shows, just going back to Ruth, that spiritual growth for Ruth and spiritual growth for the nation became our benefit, right? When I was a little girl, I don't know, really young, really young. And I really hope, sometimes I love my parents and I love the Caribbean culture, I do, because just you see things, you know, just passed down without them knowing. I think that's the best part. When something is passed down without it being like preached and taught to you, it's just done seamlessly in action, you know. And my parents would say, I'm like 8 or 9 years old. This is my siblings and I, and I'm like 8 or 9, maybe even 7, you know. And my parents would say, Doreen, here's $10. Go to the store and get eggs, a loaf of bread, and some milk. Okay. Do you remember that little cartoon or that story of the little black girl that I'm going to go to the store to get a loaf of bread. It was like a little, I don't know, it was so cute. You don't see that anymore. So at whatever, 7, 8, or 9, I had to go to the store and I would buy groceries. Sometimes this is early in the morning before I go to school, and sometimes this is after school, right? Now let me tell you about this journey to the little grocery store. It's not a minute away, and I don't have a bike, and I'm 8 and 9, so I'm not driving. I don't have a car, okay? I can run, or I can walk, or walk swiftly. And to get to this grocery store, you have to walk out of my neighborhood, cross this shrine parking lot, this massive shrine parking lot. You know, so I have to get through the neighborhood of friends and adults, and, you know, it was always during the day and sometimes in the evening that my parents would send us, and by ourselves. Like, sometimes I didn't have my siblings with me, and by myself, you know, and 8 or 9, and across the shrine parking lot, and then I come to this main road of two-way traffic, 2 lanes each. 2 lanes going this way, forward, and 2 lanes going in the opposite direction. A busy main road, Albion. Anybody from Rexdale will know that. Martin Grove and Albion. Busy traffic, lots of cars, driving. And here I am at 8 and 9. I'm not, oh gosh, I hope I don't get anybody in trouble. I mean, I'm not at the traffic light either. As you will call it today, I am jaywalking because it's the faster route. And you get to the road, and I do as my parents have taught me, look this way and look that way. No danger, no cars, okay, I can cross the road. And sometimes, because it's 4 lanes, I'd have to stand in the middle to wait for the opposite traffic of cars to go by before I can actually get to the other side of the road. Then I would get to the grocery store, finally make it to the grocery store. Remember what's on the list. Sometimes I was smart, I write it down on a pad. Other times I just memorized it. Remember to get the right change, right? And then have to make that same journey and trek all the way back home. Unbeknownst to me, maybe unbeknownst to my parents, I don't know, maybe they did know. But that was sort of my rite of passage. That was a lot of risk sending a child to the grocery store taken by me, myself, that made the journey, listened to the parents obediently who told me to do it. And a lot of risk taken by them. I could have gotten kidnapped. I could have gotten ran over. You know? But I went. I went with faith. I went with courage, with bravery, faith in my parents that they were telling me to do something that I know they're not going to steer me wrong. And I took that risk. And the reward I got was I learned that courage and confidence and responsibility at even such a young age. Even at such a young age. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. You know, I think in our Israelite nation, the God of Israel knows to do something similar. That at the age of 20, even our young men, they're baptized and they go into war, risking your life. Whether you train up or you train down, is there such a word? But you fight. You risk it all. For what? The benefit of the nation. All right. Oh my goodness, my little story took up all that time. Okay, so let's go to, it is for our spiritual growth. Let's go to Genesis chapter 12. You know, like my parents, I don't know, did they know what they were doing or they just said to do? Go. They just needed the items. They didn't care. I had all you children for this reason. Parents, you know? Parents like to do that kind of stuff. Okay, Genesis chapter 12. And we'll start at verse, let's see, we'll start at verse 10. Okay, verse 10, where is it? Okay, so this is, you know, just to give some context here, the God of Israel speaks to Abram. This is Abram before his name was changed to Abraham. And says, you know, get thee out of thy country, go to a place where I tell you to go. You know, he speaks to God, like God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob speaks. This time he's known as God Almighty, but speaks to Abram. And what does Abram do? He listens. He does it. And back to the Gideon story, which I love. Thank you, Priest Kirk, because we don't communicate. So that's perfect. You know, but verse 10, we start with, Abram, God of Israel spoke to Abram, and then verse 10, get thee out of the land and go where I will tell you to go. Verse 10. And then there was a famine in the land. Oh, there's a famine in the land. Okay. And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. So Abram just kept going south. He told, get thee up out of the land, go south. Oh, there's a famine. The God of Israel it would have been nice if he mentioned that a famine was, you know, in the land and I have to figure something out. Like, I don't understand this. And it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt that he said unto Sarai, his wife, behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman, beautiful to look at. Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, this is his wife, and they will kill me. Oh gosh, but they will save thee alive. You know, there's a famine in the land, we got to go to Egypt. Abram is strategizing. But when we get to Egypt, you're too pretty. They're going to be like, let's kill him and take you. And I like my life. So we're going to have to figure something out here. So Abram says to Sarai, say, I pray thee that thou art my sister. So when we get there, just tell them you're my sister. Okay? I'm trying to live. That it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Right away, oh, she's beautiful. Now you belong to Pharaoh. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses and men servants and maidservants and she asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, she is my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way." And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had. All right, I'll go back and break it up. So Abram strategizes to go to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. Abram is doing what? Taking a risk to go into Egypt because his wife is beautiful. Secondly, nobody came down and whispered in Abram's ear and said, "Get thee to Egypt because there's a famine." Abram thought, choice A, choice B. Will I just stay here and die in the famine, or go to a place that has an abundance and seek out that abundance so that I may survive and take the risk because my wife is so drop-dead gorgeous, because Israelite women are, what can I say? Fire up in the chat for that, please. My Israelite women and men. That the Egyptians are like, yeah, I could lose my life for you, Sarai. But he gets to Egypt. Because she's so beautiful, they give Abram all this stuff, sheep and oxen and asses and servants and all this abundance. We'll give you this because you said she's your sister. We'll give you all this stuff for her, for Pharaoh. There's a famine. Now he has wealth. But nobody whispered in Abram's ear to do this. He strategized on his own. He took this risk himself. And what I love about this culture, and even in this time, is, the plagues are there. The plagues come onto Pharaoh, and Pharaoh doesn't ignore it. He's like, I don't understand what's happening. Why did you say she's definitely your wife? Why do you have me do this thing? And the Lord plagued Pharaoh. The Lord sent this unto him. He says, no. Why would you tell me this? Take your wife. You guys take your stuff, all the stuff that I had given you, and you guys leave. So now Abram gets to leave Egypt with his wife intact and all this abundance in the land of the famine. But what I want to say is this, is that Pharaoh and the men of this time, Egyptians, are even a respecter unto women and even unto Sarai. No. We know if she's your wife, then she's your wife. She will not be with me. Isn't that something? Let's turn to Genesis chapter 20. And we'll go to verse 1. Similar situation. And now that was Abram, and here we are with Abraham. And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah, their names have been changed now, right? The agreement has been made, the covenant has been signed and sealed with the foreskin of the blood of Abraham. And Sarah his wife, and said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. So here we are in a similar situation. He has to go now into another land, in Gerar, and he lies to this king again and says, well, she is my sister. Because why? Sarah is so drop-dead gorgeous. But God came, and again, here's this interference. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, thou art but a dead man for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou did this in the integrity of thy heart, and for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that thou, not only you, but everything you have. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called his servants and told them all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, what have you done this, man? Why did you tell me? Why didn't you? I'm offended. I almost offended thee. This that you have brought unto me and my kingdom, a great sin. You almost made us do this terrible deed. Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what sawest thou, what thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So, here we have another similar story. Abraham goes in. This is after Sodom and Gomorrah. He goes to get his people. He says, oh my gosh, I didn't think that, there was the fear of God in this place, so I had to lie again and say, this is my sister. Well, really, she's my wife. And again, even another king of another nation gets the dream from the God of Israel and has to have respect unto this Israelite woman. Beautiful, beautiful. But Abraham risks it. He says, surely there was no fear in this place. He risks going into this place, risks going into the fiery dungeon, so to speak, just so he can do what he needs to do. And I had a while back in New York, New Jersey. Shout out to people in New York, New Jersey. If you remember this, as I recall once, and I have to touch it just because we read it, there are people that would read both of these stories and say that Abraham was doing incest. And we here, Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, know better. Abraham says, yet she is my sister. She's the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. Yeah, I'm sure that would trip a lot of people up, for sure. For sure. You read one verse, you get tripped up. But when you go back and you read, and you find out about Sarah, you'll know that Abraham, he was wise, smart, witty, Yes, she is the father. She is the daughter of the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. Hence why we are brother and sister, because we are all children in my God's house. There is no incest going on here. So you can say what you want, but we are serving God the way we should. Let's take another look at a risky situation. Abraham uses his wisdom, his wit, to get out of sticky situations, discernment. So he doesn't just take risk without researching or diving in or thinking about it. He takes these risks with thought and precaution, Let's go to Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8, and we'll start at, where should we start? I think we'll start at verse 1. And it came to pass afterward that he went throughout every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God, and the 12 were with him. So we're talking about Jesus the Christ. So Jesus the Christ is with the apostles. He's teaching, he's healing, he's doing all kinds of things in the land of Israel to bring the lost sheep or lost souls back to the house of Israel. And in verse 2 it says, and certain women which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna, the wife of Shosah, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others, which ministered unto him of their substance. And I'm going to stop there. So he did all these things. He did what he did for Mary. And there also that he ministered unto or followed unto was Joanna, the wife of Shosha, Herod's steward. And I want to stop there because to provide context about life and taking risk. You know, Joanna, the wife of the man, Shosha, Herod's steward. If you remember, Herod is always trying to destroy the sons of Israel. And here is her husband who is supposed to manage his house, manage his affairs, like a business manager. And here is now Joanna, risking serving and being with Jesus the Christ. You know? Basically, it's like you're like going against what your household stands for, so to speak. You're supposed to be here taking care of Pharaoh and that whole house, but here is Joanna, the wife of Shosha, saying, "No, I'm with Jesus the Christ now. Don't get it twisted." And giving all that she has and everything she needs to do to make sure that Jesus the Christ and the apostles are taken care of. You know, it's those little tidbits that we don't think about in life. Risking it all. Like, what would have happened if her husband found out? Or if Herod found out, worse. It reminds me of Exodus chapter 1. When Herod again, and Pharaoh says, you know, any Israelite boy that's born, what are we going to do? Slew them. Because we don't want them to be greater than us. We don't want them to overtake us. And what did the midwives do? They risked it all. They took their risk for the benefit of the entire nation. They didn't know what was going to happen to them if they chose choice A, let's listen to Pharaoh, or choice B, let's not listen to Pharaoh. Risking it all. And because they chose to serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, the entire nation benefit. Hence why we were able to get who? Moses. Can't write this stuff. You really can't. You really can't write this stuff. So we talked about taking risk. You know, Priest Kurt talked about having faith and being patient when you take your risk. I also want to talk about, you know, the God of Israel doesn't choose wimps. You know, there's this boldness that you have to have when you serve the God of Israel. There's this, I don't know, in Italian, do they still say it? The kahunas, big kahunas. You know, you gotta be a bit bold, you know, a lot of courage, a lot of bravado, you know. Let's turn to Acts chapter 4. All right. And as they spake unto the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them. So here we have the apostles, right? Specifically Peter, Peter and John. Jesus the Christ is no longer, you know, and they are now the ones taking up the torch and have been teaching about Jesus the Christ, or about the Christ at this point actually, and telling everyone to serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they're healing and they're doing everything that was taught to them by Jesus the Christ. And they had just healed a lame man. So here we are now, and it says in chapter 1, as they spake unto the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them. So here's all of Israel. Can you imagine this? All of Israel going to Peter, being grieved that they taught the people and preached through Jesus the resurrection from the dead. So all the high priests, everybody that put Jesus on the cross is now going to Peter, and they're upset, they're angry. Why are you doing this? Why are you teaching about Jesus? Why are you teaching about Jesus the Christ? And they laid hands on them and put them in hold unto the next day, for it was now evening tide. So they arrested them, captured them. right? Bound them up. Howbeit, many of them which heard of the word believed, and the number of the men was about 5,000. All the people they've been teaching has just been growing, and the belief has been spreading. So, these people, the priests, the people of the temple, Sadducees who do not believe in the resurrection, they're upset. They're angry that they're getting all this power and that they're doing this thing. And it came to pass on the morrow that their rulers and elders and scribes and Annas the high priest and Cephas and John and Alexander and as many as were of the kindred of the high priests were gathered together at Jerusalem. Now everybody's coming out to see what's going to happen and how they should debate this. And when they had set them in the midst, they asked, by what power or by what name have you done this? Isn't this it's just like the patterns, they just repeat, right? We've been here before with Jesus the Christ. By what power and by what name? Who sent you? All this. Then Peter, filled with what? The Holy Ghost, even that Spirit of truth, said unto them, ye rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if we this day be examined of the good deed done to the impotent man, by what means he is made whole, be it known unto you all and to all the people of Israel that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you sacrificed, whom God raised from the dead, even by him does this man stand here before you whole. So Peter's filled with the Holy Ghost. I don't understand. This man was impotent, he was lame, and now made whole by the name of the God by Jesus the Christ who taught you and was resurrected by God. He's whole. He stands before you. What are you questioning? What's with all the questions? This is the stone which was set at naught of you builders, which has become the head of the corner. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Now, when they saw the what? Boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were not unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled. And they took knowledge of them, that they had been with Jesus. We know it, Jesus the Christ. You remember, it's the day Jesus dies, there's this big conundrum around that time, the big trial, right? For he died so that we could all be here, we could all have salvation, that we have a chance, another opportunity. We just read about the priests and the high priests and the Sadducees, and they're the ones that said, let his blood be on our children's children. This is the attitude of the people. You're not walking, if you're choosing to go with Jesus the Christ, you're probably not walking around I'm choosing Jesus Christ, I'm choosing Jesus Christ. You're probably fearful. Our people are tough. They're not easy to deal with. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob himself said to Jeremiah, don't be afraid of their faces. You look at us in a crowd sometimes, not easy to deal with. Yet and still, even after all of that, Peter and John and the apostles remained steadfast and did what they had to do. They kept the instruction of go out and teach everywhere in the land of Israel and dust your feet off if someone shall not hear or take to this message. And they went around and they healed no matter what, with the boldness, doing what they needed to do for the God of Israel, even if it causes them to be arrested. When they take the risk, everyone else benefits. We benefit. The truth grows. The lie becomes diminished. There needs to be more of us spreading this truth, sharing who we are, talking and broadcasting about the name of our Father. Let's eradicate the lie. Remove the slumber and sleep from people's eyes, Jacobites and even not. Let this truth get out there. Let's go to, I don't know, another bold person in our history. Okay, let's go to 1 Samuel. Oh. 1 Samuel, let's go to 1 Samuel. Where should we go to? 1 Samuel chapter. Okay, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. And we'll go to, I don't know, verse 31. All right. So here we go. 1 Samuel chapter 17, we'll go to verse 31. And when the words were heard, which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. So this is now, obviously, this is David and the Goliath story. And going to David just because of his boldness, right? The God of Israel doesn't choose wimps. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistine. This is after all his brothers that were warriors, everybody, saw Goliath and sore afraid, and here is this young lad, the sheep herder, the one that taking care of the flock out in the field, comes up before the king of Israel, Saul, to say, send me, I will go and fight against this Philistine. And when I think about David, I think about where did he get that boldness? Where did he get those kahunas? What made him say, I'm going to do this thing? Or, he could be the laughing stock. What if he didn't win that battle? Take this risk. But I like to add context to things. David grew up in a house of warriors that had to have influenced him, being the youngest of his brothers, right? He was around it. He didn't just wake up out of thin air and say, I'm a fighter. No, he saw it. It was in his household. They probably came home and talked about, war stories and war wounds. You know how men are. Oh, look at my scar. I got that gash from so-and-so. The bravery and the ego that men have. So here now is David well, you guys are warriors, and I've only heard war stories, so here I am now. Let me make my own war stories. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, you're but a child. And he a man of war from his youth, and you're a child now, and Goliath has been a warrior since he was a youth. Oh, gosh. I love this. You're a child. You've not gone to war ever. And here is Goliath, who's been a warrior since his youth. How dare you think you can beat him? You got to be pretty bold and ballsy to beat David right now. Pretty bold, the courage and the bravery, the confidence. And what does David say? Yeah, Saul, I see you. Thy servant kept his father's sheep. I know, I keep my father's sheep. But there came once a lion and a bear that took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. I slew a lion and a bear, man. You know who you're talking to? I did that. I don't know if you guys ever watch National Geographic or the Animal Channel or things on Instagram, and you see the lion, or watch that movie, I don't want to plug movies, but the movie where a bear like went after DiCaprio and gashed at his face and his chest. You know what it takes to say you're going to go up against a bear and a lion? And he went, the lion took a lamb, and he went after the lion, after the bear. Usually when you're attacking a bear and a lion, it's because you're probably running away from it, and it got to you first. But David went after the lion and after the bear. That's pretty ballsy. And he says, you know, I did that, no problem. I could take on Goliath. Didn't care. He didn't even use the armor. He didn't even use that rain protector armor. He's like, I'm just going my slingshot. I don't know what that thing is, Harbinger. Whatever you men like to wear to war. All that armor. He's like, I don't need it, not. You know? That's what I like in our youth of Israel, man. The kahunas, the boldness. I'm a young Israelite man, and I can do this for my God. I don't care what anybody has to say. Yeah, the adults, my brothers, they feared, they trembled, but I can handle this. I got this. In the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I will do this. Oh, you gotta love that. You got to. You have to, man. Oh, you know, taking risk is not easy. It's difficult. It is. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's not, because you're faced with indecision. You don't know what to do, and you're like, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I choose choice A? Should I choose choice B? But I know it. When you choose the choice, that the consequences that are for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's always a great thing. You know, because David did this, look what the benefit of Israel. You know, our shame was stayed from us. You know, put up your best man, put up your gladiator, put up your best person. So taking risk, it develops us as a nation, it develops us individually. It's for our spiritual growth, it's for the growth of the nation. It's for the next generation to even see and witness. We got 5 minutes. Maybe I can do like pre-skirt speed read. I don't know. Can I? Or maybe I could just talk about it. Speed read? Talk about it? Oh, man. You know, I'm just thinking about this because on my way here this morning at the breakfast table, my son Samuel's, all he's singing all morning is, run, come, pick up your sword and come. Run, pick up, and his little voice is so cute. You know, that's what I like to see in our children. Pick up your sword and come. Pick up your sword and come. Whatever sacrifices you have to make, the patience, the time, if the God of Israel, if there's stumbling blocks in your way, right? If something is coming against you, like the lion came and took the lamb and David went after it. He tackled it. There's an obstacle, I will tackle it. Right? The patience you need to have. Maybe the time is not now. Maybe the time is next year. Maybe the time is 2 years from now. We're scattered right now. There are some of you that live in places that, you know, you can't get to Canada for baptism. But patience, right? Maybe this is not the year. But stay steadfast. Take the risk you need to take. Do whatever it is you need to do so that you can have your soul be with the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Because even one soul that is baptized, the angels sing for joy. Even with one soul, there is spiritual growth in the nation. With just one soul, we grow. Our truth can get out there to eradicate the lie. No matter how frightening or fearful that may be. I'll do this last one real quick. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 4. So Nehemiah chapter 4. So this is, of course, Nehemiah and the Israelites, our forefathers. They're building the wall to Jerusalem. The years of Babylon has been over, and there's the Ammonites, the Arabians, Sanballat and Tobiah. All these people are against us from building the walls of Jerusalem again, because, the walls are our protection. They cause division. There's separation. It means we have our nation, and the Arabians and Ammonites, they don't want that to happen. They know what our God does for us. They don't want us to be a nation. When you're oppressed, when someone has the power, they don't want to give up that power, right? When nations have a power, they don't want to give it up. They want to be the oppressor and remain that way and keep you oppressed. They're not going to be talking about equal rights. No, not at all. They want you to stay low. So they don't want them to build the wall. But Nehemiah, with all his wisdom, is like, I don't care. This job has to get done. I can either choose choice A and not do it, or choose choice B and get it done. So what does he do? He strategizes. Nobody came down and whispered in his ear and said, hey, Nehemiah, you should do this, this, and that. Nehemiah took the risk. He gathered the brethren. He said in verse 14, and I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be ye not afraid of them, our enemies. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters and your wives and your houses. Because when we do this, everyone else will benefit. Be not fearful. Don't look at our enemies. But let's choose to be with the God of Israel, because he will have our back. Let's choose to do this wall and get it built. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. Because it was like 3 or 4 times that our enemies tried to stop us from building the wall, right? And it came to pass from that time forth that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears and the shields and the bows and the habergeons. It's that garment of Braille or something. And the rulers were behind all the houses of Judah. Can you picture this? A movie, man. So, but in the daytime, you had half the workers. In the nighttime, you had half the workers. And when you had the workers, some had spears and some had a hammer. They which built on the wall, and they that bear burdens, which those that laid it, everyone with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. Gosh. Your enemies are before you. You're not going to build that wall. We're going to kill you. We're going to cut you down. But we have a weapon in one hand and working with the other. We're going to risk it all to do what we need to do for the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Take that leap. New baptizees, those that want to come, I urge you, I implore you, reach out, like, share, comment. I don't know if that form is still there in YouTube. Right, Elder Brian? Call, text. There's so many ways you can DM us. There's so many ways you can get a hold of us. To take that step into the first day of the rest of your life. Take that step, that risk, that leap of faith. Have that patience, that courage, that boldness. Take that risk to bet all your chips in for the rest of your life to live with reward. Thank you, guests and brethren, for joining us again on another Saturday afternoon. I hope that this has been fruitful for you. I look forward to seeing some of you next week. Tune in again tomorrow, Sunday at 1 p.m. with Elder Michael and Officer Charmaine as they take us down the road of another history lesson. But I'm thankful to be here. I thank the Elder Shadrach, the Supreme Council, all my brethren from young to old that are steadfast in this journey, because we know the risks that we take to walk in this path of truth. Peace.
When I look in the mirror, I see things I wish were not there with me. I can't blame nobody. I sleep on my own skin. My bed was made for my sleep. How can I pretend I'm somebody I'm not? I'm naked in front of you, no hiding spot. Forgive me when I'm in my feelings, Lord. I got my reasons. Everything's on relay. You're the Almighty God, but my flesh and bones are weak. I walk in the fire and take the stones they throw at me. So many times I've reached a boiling point. It brings me to the edge of the cliff. Put my hands to the sky and call your name, the mighty God of Israel. Naked I came, naked I return to you. The things that I've done, I hope they get me through. I know that I fall short, my Father. With my daily please, I just pray I have no bother. I'm an innocent soul, and this you know. I don't want to lose control. I need you, the Almighty God. It's your face that I see. It's been a hard road, but my faith is still in thee. Father, you chose me to be a family. I'm humbled inside. I reach my hands to the sky and give thanks, 'cause the truth has set me free. Naked I came, naked I return to you. The things that I've done, I hope they get me through. I know that I fall short, my Father. With my daily pleas, I just pray I have no bother.